I'm sharing what I wish I could tell my younger, anxious, overwhelmed self. Stop doing these things. So let's get into it. 7 habits that were toxic for me and that I didn't realize were actually keeping me anxious and overwhelmed. If you're new here, I'm Jess, and I make videos all about cultivating contentment exactly where you are. Number 1, saying yes too much. I struggled with always saying yes because I wanted to be the person that never let anyone down. I wanted everyone to see me as perfect. I wanted to be someone that had no limits. When I was saying yes so much, I was stretched thin and I was just letting other people dictate what my priorities were. I ran myself to the ground. It caused more anxiety, more overwhelm, and ultimately more of a victimhood mentality in my life because I just felt like all these things were happening to me. Getting very clear about your yeses and your nos is about developing the wisdom and discernment to realize that with every yes comes a no. When I said yes to overscheduling my life, every single time commitment, every coffee date, every extra task, everything that I could do in my business, I said no to slow mornings, to more dinner times with my family, quiet time to just sit and spend time with God. I actually did not realize that saying yes to everyone and everything diluted my potency to actually contribute my best efforts and my best work to the things that were really important to me. Realizing that it is my responsibility to practice that wisdom of saying yes or no has allowed me to feel more peace, more stillness in my life, and to feel more richness from pursuing the things that really matter. Number 2, toxic habit I didn't realize at the time was keeping me anxious and overwhelmed. Multitasking. I was always that person that was constantly thinking, what else can I be doing right now? Unloading the dishwasher. I'm FaceTiming my sister. I'm also cooking dinner. Let's add something else. Why don't I prep my tea for the week? I was constantly looking to, quote, maximize my efficiency. We have research now that shows that the more tasks a brain undertakes, the more they have to be focusing on at one time, the higher their cortisol is because they're more hypervigilant. High stress hormones like that is going to mean you feel more on edge, you feel more anxious, and it also means that you tend to be more short-fused. I was more forgetful. I would burn things on the stove. I was more impatient when I was trying to do a million things at once. To an extent, there is always multitasking to be done in motherhood, of course. However, I convinced myself that all these things had to happen in this exact moment. Slowly but surely, I started unitasking. Yes, even in motherhood. Focusing on the task at hand has allowed me to practice trying to be more present in my everyday moment. I don't want to be trying to answer a text message while unloading the groceries, while having some podcast on in the background, also while trying to talk to my toddler. Focusing on one thing at a time has actually allowed my nervous system to slowly heal. I actually find that when I focus on the task, I get it done in a much more efficient manner because I'm not so scattered-brained. And I don't have that constant feeling of like a chicken running with their head cut off. Number 3, rushing. Woof. Hurrying is like multitasking's cousin. They're both troublemakers. Early postpartum, when I was peak anxious and overwhelmed, I picked up the book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. I have talked about this book here before. It flipped my brain inside out. I was someone that was always rushing. I graduated from college early just because I wanted to get it done faster. My podcasts were always at 1.5. I would power walk everywhere. I would rush through my workouts. No rest time for me. Just boom, 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 try to get it done. Because I could do it faster, it takes less time, you can get more stuff done. It was just this constant cycle of rushing. Becoming a mom, especially in that newborn phase, is this beautiful invitation to slow down. And it was coming up against me in a way that I did not expect. And I had 2 choices. I could accept the invitation of all that this child was inviting me into, all that God was teaching me through her, or I could try to force her to fit to my way of life. I could rush her through all of our walks. I could overpack our schedules. I could miss the sweetness of where I was. You know, children, they take 30 minutes to look at a rock when you're walking. And if we're not careful, we will suffocate that wonder from them, that slowness that comes so naturally. And we will break it to try to fit into our rushed, hurrying culture. Now, we don't power walk. When I go on a walk with her, she wants to look at a rock for 30 minutes. We look at a rock for 30 minutes. I will lessen my schedule so that we don't have so many places to be to give us space for slow mornings. time to just be. Now it's something I have to choose every day, and it has helped me immensely with feeling less overwhelmed and less anxious because I have to stop myself and ask myself, really, what is the rush? Number 4, the toxic habit that I did not realize was keeping me overwhelmed and anxious that I had to quit: impulsive shopping. More stuff, more stress. Everything we own, we have to manage. Everything we own is kind of like a silent to-do list, and it's all crying out to us to manage, take care of it, fix it, put it away, clean it up. Our homes should be a haven from the world. And yet a lot of us, me for most of my life, our physical space can be a high source of stress that we don't even realize is contributing to our stress. I've mentioned this before, but there's a study that shows that women are more affected by clutter in their environment. They will have higher cortisol responses to clutter. Can I get an amen on this? I was constantly going to Target, going to Marshall's, picking up a mug here, a new dish towel here, picking up little things every time I felt sad or bored or insecure. There was always something shiny and new to take that feeling away temporarily. And not only did it produce more chaos in my physical environment, so a place that should be a source of calm and safety was actually a source of stress, feeling cluttered, chaotic, but I did not deal with those feelings that caused me to impulsively shop in the first place. Not making space for those because I was just shoving clutter on top of it, it created this like restlessness in my soul that I just kept covering up with more things. And it made my baseline anxious, overwhelmed, and always going. I was always escaping something. As I started getting rid of my things, as I started to minimize, as I stopped allowing myself to just impulsively buy, the uncomfortable feelings gave way to actually processing and releasing and letting go. And that gave me so much more space to breathe. Now I ask myself, will this contribute to peace or chaos in my home? Is this something I am willing to manage? It's the holidays right now, and historically that was the time my impulsive shopping went intense. And now I'm just so much more intentional about it. A lot of my decor is consumable, so they're like pumpkins that I will bake throughout the season, fall leaves that I pick up from outside and we decorate our house with. My favorite thing to do is to actually just create my own wall art and cycle through frames I already have and replace them. Minimal, low cost. Today's video sponsor is actually what I use to do that. I've talked about them before. They are Kittl. Kittl is an intuitive and easy to use graphic design software that allows you to bring your creativity to life. I am not someone who is tech savvy, even though I'm in the realm of content creation and I like to be creative. I am a novice and I still get so much use out of Kittl.
So I was at the store the other day and I saw that they had Christmas decor out and they had this really cute kind of minimal looking Joy to the World sign for like $30, and I was like, I feel like I make something like that. And so that's what I did. And then I also used their AI feature, which is clutch if you are someone that is technologically challenged like me, to kind of put in, I wanted some sort of like art looking piece that was kind of this like old timey cottage at Christmas. And so I just kind of put in a few different words to get what I was looking for, and it pulled up this really cute kind of art looking piece that I used for my bookshelf.
Whether you are a content creator and you use graphic design a lot, whether you are looking to put more creativity in your home, you're an expert or a novice like myself, I highly encourage you to try Kittl. You can sign up for free with a link in my description box below, and Kittl's also offering 25% off to my viewers for any of the paid plans. Just use code Jessica Rothley, YT. You can find out more in the description box below. Thank you, Kittl, for sponsoring today's video. The next toxic habit that I did not realize was keeping me anxious and overwhelmed that I had to quit was skipping meals. Probably like, oh, here's Jess again, talking about eating enough food. Yep, here I am. There were times in my life I did this on purpose, when I was entrenched in diet culture and ultimately had an eating disorder. And then there were times in my life that I did this by accident, from simply being too busy, rushing, multitasking. You forget to eat, your stress hormones are high, you think, oh, I'll eat later. And then I wondered why I couldn't sleep. I wondered why I felt impatient. I wondered why my mind could not rest. It wasn't until I really started nourishing myself that I felt like my brain started to dim. My sleep stopped being so restless because my body was not in constant fight or flight trying to get enough food. It could rest. A well-fed body is a safe body. A safe body allows us to come out of that survival mode and find peace and rest. I have really come to see the fruit of nourishing myself, taking care of myself in this way, not just pour over in my own life, but to my family. I am less overwhelmed. I'm less anxious. I'm less angry. It took me way too long to realize that this was actually contributing to my anxiety and my overwhelm. And now I'm never going back. I will always be eating. Number 6, toxic habit I did not realize was keeping me anxious and overwhelmed. Perfectionism. I struggled with perfectionism for so long. I put such unrealistic, unreachable expectations on myself and basically didn't allow myself to make mistakes. It sounds extreme when I put it that way, but I've talked to so many women in my life that feel the same way. When my daughter turned the age when she started being able to mimic us, she dropped her milk. She was like, ugh, ah, oh no. She was so distraught that she made a simple mistake. And in that moment, I was so convicted because I knew that she saw that from me. I would rail into myself when I would make basic mistakes, burning something on the stove, dropping something. I would get so frustrated with myself. I can tell her all the live long day, which I do, that it is okay to make mistakes. It is good and okay to ask for help. It is important to ask for forgiveness. It is important to extend grace and to receive it. I could tell her that all the time. If I don't live that out, it's really nothing. Perfectionism will suffocate the life out of you. Realistically, slowing down and simplifying my life was the small, slow steps I took to crawl out of that perfectionism hole. I want her to know grace. I want her to taste reconciliation and forgiveness. And you don't get those things when perfection is your main goal. Number 7, toxic habit that I did not realize was keeping me anxious and overwhelmed. It's treating rest like a reward. I used to look at rest as something that was earned. When I saw my worth from what I produced, slowing down felt like a failure. It was more comforting to me to always be in action than to sit still with my thoughts. Everything in creation needs rest. Why would I be any different? Rest is it's like the secret ingredient, it's where the magic happens. Once I embraced my limitations in that way, something really incredible happened. My creativity blossomed. I started to really see the sweetness in very ordinary moments. Not just sleep, but true rest really helped me to come alive. I have a few videos on this specifically, talking about logistically ways to incorporate this in your life, and I will link them in the cards and below. Bonus toxic habit, you didn't know you were getting this, but you are, social media. I'm talking anything that you can access on your phone, Instagram, TikTok, anything that keeps you scrolling. I didn't include this in the list mostly because I knew this was keeping me anxious and overwhelmed, but I was so addicted to it, I had such a difficult time quitting it. Getting off anything that kept me on my phone was one of the best gifts I've ever given myself. I am less anxious, I'm less overwhelmed, and I am infinitely more content with the life that I have without being surrounded by constant images that want to keep me fearful, discontent, or insecure. I'm extremely passionate about digital minimalism, and I talk about it in other videos, so I won't go into it here, but I will link resources below. And there you have it. 7 toxic habits that I didn't realize at the time, but were really keeping me anxious and overwhelmed. If one of these resonated more than the other, I would love to know. Let me know in the comments. Thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next video.